Hey, happy Saturday. I got it all set up and almost on time. We've got a Rage. We've got a Pseudo. Everything looks good. Everything seems to sound good. Hey, Raven. Hey, Pookie. Hey, Rubido. Hey, Lurkers. How's everybody's weekend? And how you guys doing, Rage and Pseudo?
I'm doing great. I talked to a friend that I haven't talked to in almost a year because we don't go outside anymore.
It's true. It's true, we don't. And I'm glad you got to talk to him, though you should probably call him more often than a year.
Yeah, probably.
Just a little more.
That last year kind of just seemed to fly by, but at the same time take forever. It was a weird limbo of like, time is flying by, but also the days feel long, but then the weeks felt short. I don't know. It was weird. It's already weird that it's February. January felt like a couple days to me, or at least like it only felt like 2 weeks. Like we're a full month into the year. What happened?
Yeah, I don't know. Everything was going really slow until it wasn't. Oh, you know what I didn't do? You know what I totally didn't do? I didn't share this. I didn't share this yet. So I'm going to just pop it over here so that I can share it without giving away everyone's wonderful. Anyone
Actually,
with the link?
Aloy.
Copy
Time
link.
will probably
Done. Hi,
fly by for
Aloy.
you now that you're not waiting for any more hardware. You've got the trifecta. You've got the CPU, the GPU, and the new console.
So nice. It's so nice. It's officially my favorite controller on the market.
It is. I was really surprised when I first saw it. I was kind of like, oh, like it feels like it would be kind of like a weird thing to hold, but like I have pretty big hands, so I typically like the Xbox controllers because they're just like massive. But
yeah.
And I still like the PS4 ones, but this one I'm like, wow, it's like nice between both, and plus all the haptic stuff. Have you had a chance to do the Astros Playroom?
No. All I've done is Bloodborne on it.
That is very fair.
I literally bought a PS5 for Bloodborne. The load times are incredible.
And the frame pacing is the same.
But it's always the same. It looks so much smoother. Like, it's not getting more frames, but it still looks smoother on the PS5. And oh man, it plays wonderful. So wonderful. I've finished the game already on the PS5, and I started NG Plus last night.
Nice. Should do a Burial Blade run.
Yeah, I can now. I actually ended up swapping away from the Blades of Mercy at the very end and starting a Rakuyo.
Rakuyo is a cool weapon. That is a solid choice.
There's so
But
much damage.
Burial Blade is one of those weapons that most people never use.
Yeah, I've got it unlocked now because you have to finish the game before you can get it. So all I need is the 60,000 echoes to buy it, which doesn't take too long in NG Plus. You clear out Yarnum and you've got really about 200k. So I'll go pick that up soon. But I'm loving the Rakuyo because the Blades of Mercy you can't buff, and I've got 40 arcane with all my 50 skill. So now I've been using the Phantasm Shell on the Rakuyo.
Ah, yes.
Oh my god, the damage output. So much damage. I'm having fun.
Yeah, now that I've got my power cable for my PS4 again, I'm very tempted to fire up another Bloodborne playthrough.
Do it. There we go.
Yeah, but it's base PS4.
Do it.
Just get a PS5.
Yeah, just get a PS5.
Yeah, I will. Eventually.
Eventually. All right. Everything's set up. We've done our little ramble. There was a happening in the news, but we don't like to talk about politics too much. But if you're in Arizona, you should probably go look at what they're trying to do. And if you can vote on it, vote against it, because it's a bad idea. Yeah. So that's all I'm going to touch on that
leave
one.
it at that.
Yeah.
Leaving it there.
Yeah. So, DLCs, which are much more fun. And we were kind of just talking about Bloodborne, so we'll definitely touch on that one more later. But first, I want to hear from chat. What's y'all favorite DLC? Oh, and go Canucks. Yeah, there we go. What's y'all favorite DLC? Nevada? Yeah, it was Nevada.
Well, if we don't hear from chat, I'm gonna
I already know
say
yours.
something that is not very controversial at all. The Bloodborne DLC. Probably the single finest piece of gaming content that I have ever consumed.
I would have to agree with you. And while Pseudo hasn't played it, I'm sure he'll agree anyway.
I've seen you play or fight Orphan. That was scary and cool. I've definitely seen the DLC content, and it's nuts.
Yes. Yeah, that's
My for me, favorite DLC. It's hard because like it's hard to remember which ones are my favorite because so many of the New Vegas ones were really good. It's also hard to. I'm trying to think back to like the classic ones are hard for me to say no to as well. Like I really enjoyed Frozen Throne and Brood War. I'm not sure if we would count those as expansions or DLCs if they were too old for that. If we get to that distinction.
So yeah, let's just touch on that real quick. An expansion versus a DLC. See, in my mind, the good DLCs are expansions.
So to define the term DLC and what might make it different than a game expansion, DLC stands for downloadable content.
Yeah.
It is content that you can download that will give you additional experiences in your game. It can be paid. It can be free.
It could be horse
armor. It can be a lot of content. It can be horse armor.
Even very, very, very early days, even Total Annihilation had DLC.
Yeah, I think
you could buy and download individual units to add to the game.
Yeah, I think
wow, that is pay to win.
The main distinction for between expansion and downloadable content, even though they kind of share a lot of overlap, is is it expanding the current game you're in, or is it providing just more content that you're downloading for what you're in right now? Some things are just a few missions, and some are like an entirely different, not entirely different game, but entire like campaign added onto a game.
Yeah.
It expands the current game.
Which
so
is, if we're looking at just what I've already put into the good DLC based on what Pookie said, more or less, I just wrote down what she said. That those are all basically expansions.
Because she's right.
Those are all basically expansions. Right? They're adding an entire area to the game. They're adding multiple bosses. They're expanding on the story. All of those are great DLCs for fantastic prices. The amount of game quality and content you get from those 4 DLCs for the price you pay for the DLC, phenomenal. Absolutely worth it. 100% recommend it. I didn't put Dark Souls 2 on there.
And there's a reason.
There sure is.
Go in the other list.
Some of them were so good, which is why it's sad.
No, they weren't. They broke the rules of the base game in the DLCs. They're bad.
But some of it was so good. Some of it, I'm saying. Like the poison bosses, the big poison dragon. I loved that fight.
Sin was a good fight, but like the entire rest of that DLC could just not be part of the game, and it would be better.
So, yeah. The DLC actually made me quit Dark Souls 2. The Dark Souls 2 is the only Dark Souls I didn't do absolutely everything in, because while doing the DLC, I went, yeah, fuck this.
Halo 2 had DLC, and it was one of the first instances of Xbox's Xbox Live DLC content, and it was like multiplayer maps for Halo 2, which was interesting at the time. People kind of feel one way or another on it. I thought it was kind of neat and cool.
I think it's a good thing.
There's
depending on the price. How much were they?
$20, I believe, and it was.
It's an expensive map. It's a map pack. Okay. It's not like $20 per map. Okay, that's acceptable. So how many maps? How many maps for $20? Like 4, 5?
Let me see. It was probably around.
Like 4 or 5 sounds fair for $20. That's like $4 or $5 a map. And, a full multiplayer map that's well tuned and built and interesting. That's a lot of work.
Yeah, I think what it was because for a long time, developers there's also free DLC. There isn't always paid DLC too. Developers will give free content updates, which people can download or pull in. And the point of that is, your game's been out for a year or two, and it was a good game, it's sold well, but now you want to drive hype again, and then it makes headlines, it draws up news, and people who maybe were in the market for buying it at that time will now remember, oh yeah, that's a game. They can buy the game at a discounted rate and then buy the DLC, or even just download the free DLC. It kind of drums up that hype. So not all of the time will it be paid. They'll kind of just do it for free just to kind of keep the game alive a bit longer. But also paid DLC makes sense for, it takes man hours to do it and you need to pay the developer something. So, I've got a bunch of people to create some maps, put a 10 to $20 fee on it, adds a bunch of additional content for people, keeps everything fresh. I think that's a win-win for most people.
Yeah, I agree. A whole pack of maps. Like, I think one of the cruxes here is what's going to separate a good DLC from a bad DLC is really the cost to content ratio.
Yeah.
Like, if it's not a lot of content,
the
but it only costs
ratio.
you $2, yeah, whatever. It was only $2. You don't expect like the world from $2.
Here's an interesting thing. You should never sell a product for $2 or for $1. Those are terrible amounts to sell a product for. You know why? Because everybody goes, well, it only costs $1. How good can it possibly be?
Yep.
And it doesn't matter how much work you've put into it. You will get more users by being free.
Yep.
Or conversely, the quality argument is like, well, why does it only cost $1? It must be garbage. So they go and buy the $10 alternative instead.
Yeah. It is a seriously legitimate problem, to the point where one of the companies I used to work for, interesting little tidbit, when we would market our product to large corporations, we had a special pricing sheet for them that was more expensive. And the reason we did this is because if we weren't charging them those prices, they would look at our prices for other people and go, how good could this be? Look at how cheap it is. So in order to get taken seriously by large corporations, we charged them double. And they loved it.
You'll see that very commonly everywhere in the world.
Yeah, it happens a lot.
Very common in restaurants. You'll find that most of the time you're paying for, like, the more you pay, the more expectations you have. Even if it's the same dish, even if you're aware of it, you'll still think it tastes better for the most part. Across the board for most things we consume, it's just a weird psychology thing that we associate paying more with higher quality, and we can't always tell the difference in quality. But
Wine
work out the way.
Wine is a great example of that one.
Well, liquor in general, like you know the story of Grey Goose, right?
Yep.
They had a relatively inexpensive, pretty okay vodka, and they went and said, well, how do we sell more? Like we've got this vodka, it's not selling great. We're being outsold by a lot of our competitors. What do we do? So they put it in a new bottle and charged you twice as much.
Sells like hotcakes now. Everyone wants the expensive bottle.
Yep. It is a really nice bottle, though, to be fair.
It is a nice bottle, but buy Schramm instead.
Oh yeah, if you want a good vodka, don't buy Grey Goose, but it like the physical bottle, the piece of glass is nice.
Schramm. That's what you want for vodka. If you can track down a bottle of Schramm, absolutely buy that. It's made in Pemberton.
Really?
Yep. From organic potatoes in a copper still. 100% real organic potato in the vodka. It's one of like 2 or 3 vodkas in the world that's still actually made from potato. Bad DLC is Train Simulator, and I think Street Fighter that has so many it costs you $3,000 for everything.
Yeah.
So there's an interesting thing that you brought up immediately after that, Rubuto, which is Payday 2. Payday 2 has a ass ton of DLC, just like loads and loads and loads of it, but it's all actually really good.
And
then you don't need all of it, right? Like, just because you have it doesn't mean you can't play with somebody that doesn't have it.
Correct.
Yeah.
I think the problem what happens with some of that is we had this expectation before downloadable content that, you should be getting everything. Otherwise, we kind of have that missing out feeling.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with games like Train Simulator and like The Sims. The Sims has like an insane amount of expansions, but like you don't really need them all. Or most people who like enjoy The Sims like typically don't really need them all, but you feel like you're missing out on that content if you don't have it. The major expansions, at least, there's not too many of them. They are kind of priced a bit ridiculous, but it's the things like the IKEA set or the H&M set. It's like you don't really need them, so you don't have to buy them, but it's still just weird that you're scrolling on those pages and it's like add all to cart, like $900. You're like, ooh, that's an expensive video game.
Yeah.
And then you wait for it
that's
to
a
go
lot of
on
money.
sale, and then they're like 99 cents each, and it ends up being like $60.
Yep.
Maybe let's break down some of these DLC different types, because I'd love to talk about the ones that are expansion content that expand the games, and I also would like to talk about the ones that are like map packs for multiplayer, as well as there's some DLCs out there that are like completely different games that they just kind of put in using the same system. An example of which is Undead Nightmare for Red Dead Redemption, which is probably one of my favorite DLCs. If you don't know what it is, they took Red Dead Redemption and basically just turned it into a zombie game and completely flipped the style of the game, and it's just completely wild and a whole lot of fun. Everyone's really hoping they do the same thing with Red Dead Redemption 2, but it was really cool because it's DLC. You have the game. I think it was only like $15, $15 or $20 or something, and then now you in the same world, same characters, but now you have zombies, and it's a different storyline, different kind of mechanics going through everything. It was really neat idea because for the most part DLCs are just okay, we have an extra couple of missions, or you get an extra character or something. This was like, no, we've completely changed the game now. It's basically a different genre.
Yeah.
And I think that sort of brings up the point of why companies like making DLC, not only to regain hype, get themselves back in the news cycle, get people thinking about their game again. Like those are all very valid reasons to create a piece of DLC. But another thing is that it's significantly easier than making a game.
Oh yeah.
Like you've done all the hard work already. You've made the engine, you've set up the asset pipeline, you've made the controls, you've designed a bunch of levels, you have a theme, you have characters. You've done all the hard part already. You've done all the setup. So now you can, in a relatively cheap way, take the assets and flows and technology that you've already built and turn that into Ubisoft games, turn that into additional content that gets people thinking about your game, generates a bit more revenue. You have this new wonderful experience that you didn't have to stress about building all of those other things for. And I think FromSoft is one of the best examples of that, in that they make these incredible worlds and these incredible game engines that take forever to put together. And then once they're done with that, they go, okay, cool. Now what can we do with this? And they end up making some of the best video game content ever because they can spend time on the content itself rather than the delivery mechanism of that content.
Am I the only one who wants another Bloodborne DLC for the world of Is?
Literally everybody wants that.
Show me what Is was like, please. That would be at the same time as Loran. That's awesome. Show me. I want to know. So many questions. Please. Please. You could even do a sequel in that.
I'd be down.
That'd be a prequel sequel, but that's what's needed. You can't go forward from the Bloodborne story. You can only look at the past. All that can be done in that. Please give me more.
Or port it to PC. Get Bluepoint to do it. I'd be down for that.
Yeah, I'd be accepting of this as well. I want to put more bads in because I tend to focus on the good. Yes, Ubisoft, all of them.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I was reading something the other day. Apparently, the new Assassin's Creed Valhalla, like half of the armor sets are behind paywalls, and it's like that's a lot of content. And it's all that we can get. We're more into like the microtransaction things now, but it's still downloadable content. But it's just wild.
So much of it, I know. And it's like, hey, you put the content in your game. Why not let us play it? We did pay you AAA prices. We should have AAA content. Please, thank you. Hello. Yes.
No. You get a live service.
So there's the transition to where we are now kind of started back on like what we used to call like the day one DLCs, which was this kind of bullshit where there was this content that was already on disc, but to get it, you either had to, pre-order or you had to, buy the expansion pack or buy a special version. It's like, even though
Or
it's
illegally
made
download
and
the
it's already
game.
in there, and then it was just already on disc, and it's kind of like, well, before, the point of DLC was, the game's made, you have everything, you pay your money for it, you get everything on the disc, and now we're gonna start releasing more content that you can download to add to what you have already. And then we started slowly transitioning over to, all right, well, it's already on there and you've paid for it, but now we kind of just want to squeeze a little bit more out of you. And it's like, oh, okay, well, it's made, and now we've kind of transitioned into this thing of like, okay, well, we have base version, and we have silver, gold, deluxe, platinum versions of everything, and now we have like $125 games that come with a lot of the day one DLCs as it is. And
the full price of a game is not actually 60 or 70 US dollars. It's actually 100 US dollars.
And it's like, and a lot of times some of these games, it's like, maybe if some of the effort didn't go into some of these day one DLCs that went into actually polishing the game a bit more, like, these games would be a bit better, because I'm finding that a lot of these games have very brutal day one launches, but it's like, oh, it seems all the DLC is fine, or all the paid microtransaction stuff is fine, so you kind of see where the priorities are.
Yep.
Fallout 76.
I mean, the game's already paid for, right? Why bother finishing it if they've already paid for it?
Yeah,
On-disc
and
DLC,
like that's one of the worst things about the way that the industry has gone, is that because of pre-order culture, and never pre-order video games.
Ever.
Because of pre-order culture, the incentive to actually finish the game isn't there.
Yeah, they've got your money.
You've already paid for it.
You're going to keep on seeing trash in the gaming world if you keep on pre-ordering your games, because you keep on giving them your money before they finish their product. We see this in the construction world all the time too. Shouldn't be a new thing. We've known for a long time in construction that you don't pay before it's done. Otherwise, they don't do it right. They get lazy. They'll just leave sometimes, not even finish it. Got to take them to court. All sorts of BS. No, learn. Wait till you see the game done and finished and ready to play, and then buy it. Be like, hey, this looks good. Let's actually play this one.
Yeah. I mean, one of the games that we play a lot on channel is Risk of Rain 2. And I was super hype about Risk of Rain 2 as soon as it was announced for early access, because I loved Risk of Rain 1. I thought it was a fantastic game, and I couldn't wait to see what they were going to do in a 3D world.
Yeah.
And I was very excited. I really wanted to buy it, but I waited. And having the experience of Risk of Rain at 1.0 and now the subsequent patches, honestly, it seems like it's a much better experience from pre-release based on other people that I've talked to.
I think
I probably, yeah. I mean,
pre-order is slightly different from the early access thing. They're both not great, but
early access is less.
You're giving them money before the game is finished.
Early access is less egregious, I think, is the point he's getting to.
Kind of. It's a tool that can be used, but like pre-ordering, where that's kind of started from, was back before there was kind of digital distribution channels for everything. You would go to your GameStop, your EB Games, and you would put down your $10 deposit so you could guarantee a disc, because back in like the Halo days, like Halo 2 and Halo 3, there, like, if you weren't there right away, if you weren't waiting in line, chances are you weren't going to get a disc for a while. So that's kind of why people would pre-order, to secure the physical copies. But nowadays, you don't really have to worry about that. If you want it day one, and you don't want to wait for a disc, or there's no point in doing that. You can just buy it day one digitally and then download it. There's no really point to pre-order things digitally. It's like, if you're going to want the game, you're going to get it day one. You don't necessarily have to get it the moment it releases, even though the marketing teams want to drum up as much hype, because they want all these kind of pre-orders, because once you got the pre-order and you get it, chances are you'll play it for a few hours before you're like, if you wanted to return it, or most of the time you won't want to return it. You're just kind of like, okay, it wasn't as good as I hoped, whatever, I'll play it for a bit and then leave it. Whereas if you were to wait a couple days and see it, you're like, oh, maybe I'll wait for a few patches first, or that kind of stuff. It should be the norm that we don't buy everything day one. It should release, it should go through a review cycle, and then that's when you kind of make your decision to go forward and just grab those titles.
Cyberpunk.
Yeah, I was about to say, Cyberpunk is a prime example of this. Like, Cyberpunk was a very ambitious game.
Oh, yeah.
It was very, very ambitious, even for a company as big as CD Projekt Red. But the problem is they had all of these pre-orders, just millions of them, just sitting there, causing them problems financially every year because they had to keep posting losses because of the pre-orders, because they couldn't realize that revenue yet. So they tried to push the game out as fast as possible so that they could realize that revenue, have it show on their balance sheet, have them look better, have to investors gain more money. But the way that the game shipped was horrendous.
Yeah. So the main point Rage is making here is that the pre-orders forced them to ship. They did not even have the option of not shipping in a crappy state and making the game better because they had already sold it. So it's not just bad for us, it's now bad for them as well. And that's a big deal. That's a really important point to realize here, that it's shooting everyone in the foot now. We get worse games for more money, and they get sued by their investors and go out of business. They didn't go out of business yet, but
Fingers crossed. I do actually like GOG.
yeah, I like GOG, and hopefully that wouldn't disappear if the game developer itself didn't, because that's still profitable, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, not a good look for CDPR on that one. Which is
Nope.
Do we have any controversial DLCs? Is there anything we disagree on what's a good DLC? We need an argument. That's what we need.
Maybe. I probably have some hot takes. I'm scrolling through DLCs right now. I did buy horse armor, but in my defense, I was like 12 or something.
Yeah, no, we're not going to fault you
Why,
for that.
why did you have a credit card when you were
It was
12?
$2. No, the cool thing was is they sold it in stores. You could buy it.
Oh, right. You can buy the little cards.
Yeah, it came with well, I bought like the pack, so it came with Shivering Isles, which was actually like a really good DLC. I think Shivering Isles is almost better than like the actual main campaign for that game, because the main campaign's kind of boring, and that one was like
because the main campaign's kind of... See, the funny thing is Bloodborne's DLC was better than the main campaign, but the main campaign was one of the best games I've ever played.
Yeah. And
there's that.
Yeah, wasn't too saying that the Shivering Isles was better, but it was cool that they did that. But Horse Armor was bundled, and I remember being like confused. Even though I'm like, this is like a weird, because it was one of the first times they did the like in-game cosmetic, and I don't know if it really made your horse too much stronger. I don't even know if like your horse dying was really like that common of a problem.
Wasn't Horse Armor purely cosmetic?
I believe it was.
There was I don't know, because there was different types. There was like, I remember there being like silver and then gold, so I'm assuming it wasn't just cosmetic. It may have provided...
That still sounds cosmetic to me.
Pretty sure it's just cosmetic.
I mean, are you really thinking that Bethesda is going to put stats on their horse armor?
I mean, I wouldn't put it past them.
That's work. That's work. You think they're going to do more work than they need to? When have they ever done more work than they needed to? When have they ever even done the amount of work they needed to?
That's a better question.
Oh, it does increase their health, but
really?
Not very much. So it doesn't really matter.
They don't need to do work because modders do it for them. Yes, accurate. We've gone over this fact many times. Yeah, they tried to monetize that too. Piss off Ubisoft, or Bethesda. Piss off Ubisoft as well, but piss off Bethesda. That's how bad you've gotten, Ubisoft. When I think bad Bethesda, you come to mind.
Here's some controversial DLC. The DLC and season passes for Destiny 2.
Oh yeah, we should talk about season passes.
Yeah.
Pre-order
season
DLC.
Passes. Well, not even pre-order DLC. Pre-order DLC that you have to work to get in a lot of cases.
Well, original season
that
passes
isn't like meaningful DLC. It's just crafting mats and garbage.
That was those season passes are like the battle royale season passes. I'm talking about like when you would buy like a Borderlands season pass, and you kind of
DLC pre-orders.
Yeah, you just kind of pre-order the DLC that's coming out over the years, an upfront cost. Which I mean, if people are enjoying the game, I mean, that's fine.
It's not
But yeah,
technically a pre-order, at least. Like, you haven't bought a particular item. There's no guaranteed release date or anything, I don't think. It's just when these come out, you get them, is more how it's worded.
yeah, but you pay a lot more upfront. You're paying
when and if.
Yeah.
If is an important word in there.
Yeah, you basically are paying all your DLC costs up front before they're released rather than waiting. And I think it only costs a little bit more to just wait for them to come out and then buy them.
And
but
it costs even less to wait for them to go on sale and buy them.
Yeah. Yeah. So I thought season passes were interesting. And now we've moved into season passes where they're like the battle pass where you're, buying our content. And actually that reminds me of the Battlefield. I can't remember what it was called. This stupid thing where all the exclusive nice guns were behind their extra $60 paywall. You had to buy the game for $60, and if you actually wanted to have decent guns, you had to pay another $60 for their like Battlefield Plus bullshit.
You're basically buying a $60 demo at that point.
No. Well, kind of, but it's the live service thing. Like they want you to pay for a bare bones platform. You pay $60 for your bare bones platform, and then they market additional products to you on that platform because they've already determined that if you are willing to pay $60 to get onto that platform, you're willing to pay more money for more of it. Because what you're buying into is shit.
Here's a question. Do we blame MMOs for this? Because it is the MMO model. It's justified when MMOs do it because they're doing it on a different scale, in a different level, in a different layout and everything. But it is their model. It really, to me, looks like other games saw what MMOs were doing and went, we went on that train too.
Yeah, I think Rubito makes a good point that MMOs have transcended now into gacha games. Stuff like Rubito, you're taking words out of my mouth. Genshin Impact, for instance, is a great example of where I think a lot of MMOs are heading.
Get started.
It makes me want even less to try playing an MMO.
Yeah, no, I mean, you know how big of an MMO fan I am. How many MMOs do I play?
Currently, none. Sometimes Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah, every once in a while I get that itch, like, I need to do a dungeon, man! Oh, I can't take it anymore, give me some dungeon content! And then I, jump into 14 and do some dungeons, and then it's just, not quite what you need, but it's enough to get you by. It's like nicking out and smoking a cigarette butt from an ashtray.
Gross.
14 is fine.
It's about
not
the level
great,
it's at.
but it's fine.
Yeah, it'll get you through the day.
MMOs have been like a dead genre for quite a while now, unfortunately.
Hey, Pantheon, hurry up. I'm no Brad McQuaid died. Rest in peace. But come on, Pantheon, hurry up. I need a good MMO. I need it. I need some... non-factioned world PvP. Oh, God, yes.
I am not nearly that excited.
Oh, man. But yeah, I mean, that is where it all started, right? Because they were the first service game. But you're maintaining servers and moderation teams and monthly costs to running the game. They are running an actual service, so it makes sense on that front. But I've just seen everybody else going, hey, they pay monthly for their games. We want you to pay monthly for ours too. Like, well, you better give me monthly new content. Right?
I think
that's the way it works.
I think it's like MMO isn't really doing anything wrong. It was just unfortunately we started getting conditioned to, being okay with paying monthly for games on that kind of model for the stuff we like. And like, I remember, at least for me at first, it was like a wild concept to like, wait, I got to sub and pay every month just to keep playing. And at first it's like, it took me a bit to warm up to it. And it's like, okay, this, this makes sense. There's so much content. And when they release patches, they are doing a lot of stuff in MMOs, but then slowly but surely, all of a sudden now we have games as a service that are like single player games. And it's like, okay, well now you got to keep paying for all this stuff, even though you already paid for a very expensive game. And, we're just going to keep squeezing everything out. It's like, okay, this is getting a bit ridiculous.
I don't understand. Why do people pay for single player games like that? Like, why put all that money into it? I can already finish the game, and it's not like I can flex on other people.
It's not a personal attack, Rubino. it's just not. But like, I feel like the whole thing with live services coming to single player experiences preys on that. I really love this experience. Give me more. Like, you could easily have something like, say, Chalice Dungeons in Bloodborne. That it's just incredible. You love the game. The core of the game is like Bloodborne, but then you just have this kind of empty experience. It's just not very interesting. And then they go, hey, we made this additional DLC that you can purchase that gives you 2 new boss fights, and you get to meet this new character called Father Gascoigne.
I'm not sure where you were going with that. I heard Papa G,
like
and that's just my mind just went to Papa G, and
What I'm saying is, like, you could start with a game that is very similar to Chalice Dungeons, like something procedurally generated. There's enough gameplay there to keep you engaged, but it's kind of empty. It's kind of not all that interesting. And by the time you're getting to the end of the content that is there, then they go, hey, we made this DLC. You should give us some more money so you can play some fresh content in our video game. Then they sell you up to Papa G. And then they sell you up to Amelia. And then they sell you up to, I don't know, Spider Bitch, Rom.
I mean, that basically is what's happening right now in the game world. And that's what...
Yep, that is how most modern live services are made.
Well, no, I mean, even worse than that. It's gotten worse, because we now have Square Enix pulling off the Final Fantasy VII Remake BS. Where you're paying $100 for a third of a game. I heard that, and people are running out and buying it. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to buy the third one to get the best part of the story, the most interesting spells and summons. And, like, the end of a game is always the best part of a game, isn't it? It's when you have all your power spells and your cool combos all going and everything's all jacked up. And, the beginning part of a game is often the most boring part of a game, especially in a JRPG. That's the, leveling
in a JRPG, I would agree.
Skills and stuff.
But in something like a Soulsborne, for instance, the beginning is actually my favorite part.
Yeah, because
it's not powerful yet.
Yeah, because it's the best tuned. Usually, we tend to have good builds and outpower things quickly. But at the same time, the first bosses versus the last bosses are always more epic. Always.
Hopefully, at least.
I mean, honestly, my favorite bosses in Bloodborne core before the DLC were Cleric Beast, Amelia, and then Gehrman. Like, you had to go all the way from Amelia to Gehrman to find another boss that I like that much.
I'm a pretty big fan of Shadows, despite it being a 3-fight boss.
And super cheesable.
But if you don't know how to cheese it and you're just trying to straight up fight it for a first time, it's a really, really good fight.
The first time you fight it is pretty good, but then...
Oh, and Bloodstarved, although Bloodstarved's beginning as well, but Bloodstarved's a great fight.
I figured out the cheese on Shadows the second time I fought them.
I beat them the first time I fought them.
No. I mean, like, yeah, I beat them, but then I came back to do it again, and I figured out the cheese, and then I said, now they're completely uninteresting.
After the first time I had beat them, they got pretty easy pretty quick, but I don't bother cheesing them. I just kick their butts. But there's so many good bosses in that game. You can count the bad bosses easier than the good ones.
Rom, done.
Did you know that Rom is Hidetaka's favorite boss fight in that game?
Yeah, he's wrong.
He made it!
It doesn't matter, he's wrong.
I was interested when I found that out. Like, that's his favorite, huh?
And I can totally understand it thematically. Like, thematically, we're just talking about Bloodborne again.
Yeah, that's what happens.
Thematically, Rom is amazing. Like, you're in this other world. You're in this endless plane of the surface of the ocean with this old one, and it's summoning enemies to try and defeat you. And they're all like these crazy spiders with like spikes for legs, and they got these weird masks on. And like, thematically, it's awesome. But the actual boss fight is shit.
One of his reasons that he loves her so much is that she's oddly cute.
That too. You know, a little round thing with a little mask on.
That's ROM animation. That's about what she does. That's it. That's the entire fight.
I'm trying to think of other DLCs, because the thing about, at least for me, for DLCs, is that if it was bad, I usually just didn't buy it. So I don't have too many DLC experiences where I felt burned. Was there anything on stream that you played that was DLC that you didn't like too much? Or I think for the most part...
No, but I played a great one. I remember playing that one. That one was great.
Oh yeah, Sam's story. Sam's story is
the Sam DLC was fantastic. Wonderful little tidbit and not expensive. Beautiful little expansion to it. You're seeing something clear here. The ones that we say are good are entirely capsulated content meant to be played. All the bad ones are just like little things, like Mass Effect 2 areas. I don't know if anybody played those early Mass Effect 2 DLCs. I didn't pay for them, but I did play them. Because they weren't worth paying for, trust me. One of them was running around on an asteroid picking up items.
I mean, technically that is an encapsulated new area that has expanded the game. It's just shit.
Yeah, there was no enemies, there was no combat, there was no story. It was just run around on this asteroid and pick up all the items that we've put into this DLC for you to find. It was time-consuming, and it was anti-content, and it cost money.
My favorite bit of anti-content, which I don't really consider it a bad DLC because it was a joke that the community then demanded, is Arma 3's Kart DLC. It started off as an April Fool's Day joke. They're like, "Oh, we're adding go-karts," and everyone's like, "Ah ha ha ha!" But seriously, put that shit in the game now.
Go-kart.
We fucking want it. And then everyone just demanded it, and then they just went and actually made a go-kart DLC for a war simulator game, and it's hilarious. I think they priced it a bit too high for a joke. I wish they would have just kind of released it, but at the same time, I still respect that time and effort went into that, and people need to be compensated.
I want goat carts now.
Well, Goat Simulator has a shit ton of DLC, I think, as most of it being jokingly, if it's expansions or not.
To be fair to the go-karts, one of my favorite things in Battlefield, I don't remember which one it was. I think it was still 3, was dirt bikes. Is that 3 or 4?
I think that was 3.
Pretty sure it was a late expansion to 3. Because I don't think I played any of them after 3.
Yeah, because I think it was the new maps, and I remember riding them around, popping wheelies while my buddy was on the back sniping people with a Spaz 12.
That's funny. That's exactly what I was going to say. I used to ride it around with my buddy hanging out on the back headshotting people. They used a sniper, though.
Yeah, we used to use the Spaz 12 with slugs because it still shot as far as a sniper. And you could put a scope on it. It just was hilarious when it showed up as like your kill cam that someone shot you from like, almost a kilometer away with a shotgun. You're like, hacker, that guy's hacking. So we'd always get like the mods checking us out. It's like, no, man, you can just chuck a slug in this thing and launch it across the map. It's amazing. Shotgun from so far away. It's like, it's a sniper if you want it to be. This game's realistic, right?
Well, I mean, it actually kind of is. Like that's how shotgun slugs work. It'd be impossible to actually aim it.
Not quite that far, but yeah.
I would not be that accurate.
We could do a whole panel on shotguns in games. We really could, because they've never been done well.
No,
they're always,
and it's because they ruin game balance.
Turns out shotguns are powerful.
They ruined real balance too, is the problem. They're just like, if you were to accurately put them in war games, they would just be the only thing that typically gets used for how they're played. In World War One, actually, I believe it was the Germans wanted to get it banned in warfare, which was kind of ironic from their like use of chemical gas, because people would jump into trenches and they would call it slam firing, where you just hold the trigger down and just kind of pump it, and like it's a really messed up deadly weapon, and if you were to put that accurately in a video game, that's literally probably all that would really happen. So you have to balance it, and then it's just kind of impossible to balance. It's like, oh, all of our guns shoot one bullet, one here, we can track it. Like, well, this one's going to shoot a lot and go everywhere, and calculating that's too hard, so we're just going to kind of use a cone, and if they're in the cone, then sure, but how do we scale damage? It's like, don't worry about it, any of them get hit, they're dead, right?
Yeah, that's the problem that most people have with the shotguns. Like, they're OP within like 5 feet, and then beyond 5 feet, they don't hit anything. Whatever. Okay, back to DLCs. Enough about shotguns. Like I said, we could do a whole one talking about how many games have screwed up shotguns.
I mean, I'm sure between the two of us, Pseudo and I could fill at least 2 hours talking about how to balance a shooter.
Oh yeah. I do like the Doom 1 shotgun, though. For some reason, I thought that was always satisfying as hell.
Doom Super Shotgun's usually done pretty well in general.
Single-player games typically have good shotguns. It's just when you start to make a multiplayer, it's like, okay, we need to balance this. And then you get that, that 5-foot limit of, after 5 feet, they become Nerf bullets.
Yeah.
Actually confetti.
Yeah. Shotguns were literally the meta in our Halo 2 group for quite a while. Rubido basically started a whole new other panel. Yeah, he can do that. That's why we love Rubido. What else have I loved for DLC? I don't do a lot of DLC. Typically, I buy the game, and then I finish the game, and then DLC comes out for it, and I'm like, I've already finished it. And that's about my approach to most DLC. It wasn't until... You know what we should have on here? Are expansions DLCs?
Yeah, they have overlap. They are downloadable content.
What about old expansions? What about old expansions?
Sometimes.
Would we still clump old expansions into DLCs if you had to go out and buy it on a disc because nothing was downloadable back then? It's still downloaded off the disc.
I think that is the sort of crux of the definition of DLC, and I think DLC is probably a bad name, in that it should just be, extra content for the game.
Expanded content, extra content.
An expansion, is you can kind of make it fit into the term DLC, but it is definitely a subset of the extra content, whereas there are individual little bits and pieces that are also extra content, and often a way to monetize a game that isn't necessarily doing so well, without having to spend expensive developer time on it. You can just have artists work on it, or just have writers work on it.
Yeah, because if we look at like actual expansions as DLC, then a lot of the old ones were immaculate. Diablo 2 is exactly what I was going to say, as well as StarCraft. Anything Blizzard, old Blizzard North games, when they released an expansion, that was an expansion. Like Diablo 2, the game changed. Like completely changed. It wasn't the same game nearly.
And StarCraft Brood War are both actually the same length. It's just the game again, like a new game in the same engine with new stuff happening.
Yeah, new units, same engine, new story, long campaign. Good campaign. Lots of fun.
Great campaign.
Yeah, I think the term the term DLC was kind of started like from the Xbox Live kind of era, where you would actually download things off the marketplace. But it kind of isn't really around too much anymore, because with microtransactions and all that content, I mean, it's just everything is technically nowadays the game itself is a DLC. I mean, you're downloading the game and its content. It is kind of just a blurred line between, expansionary content. That doesn't really, I don't think it really matters anymore what the medium is. But I think a quick thing on the history of it, I think the Dreamcast was the first that actually offered DLC, because I think it was one of the first consoles that had like a NIC built into the machine.
Yeah,
because I know
the first one to have a NIC was PS2, but it was an expansion to play Final Fantasy 11.
Right, and then because I think that's when that started. But it was like Xbox that it really took off, and it was like downloadable content for your game, and sometimes I think it was free, it was paid, but I think expansions, and I think it's kind of interchangeable with that kind of expansion stuff.
Just little shout out for the Dreamcast. It was way ahead of its time.
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily a great idea, though.
Oh no, the actual implementation was terrible, but the things that they were trying to do with it were way ahead of their time.
Yeah, some of the features were ahead of its time, but the whole theory of the system was, let's make an arcade machine for home. That didn't fly. Hardcore gamers at home want to play more than an arcade game. Turns out arcade games were meant to be short little bursts to claim money and get other people onto the machine, and that's not what hardcore gamers wanted in their house. I've had a few Dreamcast fans get mad at me for saying that.
Well, I mean, you're not wrong, but it did get me thinking about like the transition from arcade monetization into modern DLCs, or things like modern DLCs, in that you used to be able to charge people per play for a game that is designed to make you lose. It is winnable, but it's going to do everything in its power to make you lose.
Yeah, those arcade games were unfair, to say the least. Like R-Type. You die in R-Type, don't even bother putting more quarters in. Just go back to the beginning and try again. You're not going to have any more power-ups. You're just going to go through $20 trying to kill the boss with no power-ups.
I'm trying
All that's going to happen.
I'm trying to think if any arcade games have had expansions or anything like behind paywall and content, because it wouldn't surprise me if it did, because the game itself is a paywall. But I feel like out there's probably some arcade game that was like you hit some point or something and you could dump in 4 quarters and access a certain area. It feels like that would exist. I have no idea if it does or not.
Never heard of anything like that.
But I feel like it wouldn't surprise me if it did. I don't know any examples of it. But
so I'm thinking of examples of like arcades that were only ever released in Japan, because Japan still has a thriving arcade scene.
That's true.
I mean, maybe less now that Corona has been a thing, but they did have a thriving arcade scene. And they had games that you could actually save your progress to an account that's like loaded on a little tap card thing. And you could progress across sessions, not even necessarily on the same machine, throughout the game. So it wouldn't surprise me to hear that there are like, you can pay X amount to the game developer to unlock more content, and then the next time you go to an arcade and you tap your card to log in, you can play that new content.
Yeah, I don't know. I do remember arcade games that would save your content on that machine, which was cool. That was a nice touch. Konami charging for save slots. Oof. Indeed. Fuck Konami, indeed. Metal Gear Survive. Yeah, that's not what I'm ever playing. Not gonna happen.
Oh god.
I say no to Metal Gear Survive. No.
The trailer for that, and just seeing like the poking animation they did, and just seeing that, I was like, oh no, what have they done? Oh no.
I saw I think it was actually TB's video. One of the last videos he did before he got really sick was on Metal Gear Survive. And I watched it, and it was like a train wreck. I couldn't look away from the horror.
Every time they're saying, so then we decided to do this, and you're just like, oh no.
But how did they decide that was? Oh my God, it got worse.
I'm not a huge MGS fan. Not at all. That's why I refuse to play them. I didn't play the good ones. I'm not going to play the bad ones. Well, actually, that's not true. I played the best one. Metal Gear Rising.
Metal Gear Rising is an incredible game.
How that game
Absolutely
ever
ridiculous.
spawned into the Metal Gear franchise. Well, I'm glad it did.
Yeah, all I know is if you want a good character action game, you go to Platinum.
Yep, no, that's not true. Who cares? It's fucking awesome. You're not wrong. That statement is entirely correct.
I'm surprised we haven't talked about EA at all.
We try not to.
I mean, it's kind of low hanging fruit, isn't it?
So is some of the last few things in the bad DLCs.
We did put that there. That covers EA.
Yeah, it does. There's I'm thinking there's a really famous one from the Star Wars Battlefront when they had all that paywall content for the heroes, I guess you call them, the heroes and villains to play. You like unlock Darth Vader and stuff like that. And they had all that like day one stuff, and people are calculating like how many hours it would take to actually unlock. And I can't remember, a sense of pride and accomplishment or something. I can't remember what the tagline that came out of that. The really stupid response that everyone just blew up
a
over.
A sense of pride and accomplishment.
Pay more for the game.
Still the most downvoted post on Reddit. The most.
It was to how long it takes to unlock stuff in the DLC.
Yeah, it was like thousands of hours instead of just paying money. And it's like, well, getting this stuff gives you a sense of pride and accomplishment. It's like, yeah, but it's brutal that like you can just pay the few bucks, even if it's not like egregiously priced. It's just the fact that like how hard it would be to unlock it otherwise is just such a deterrent to doing it. If it's not like, it would be different if it was like, something that you can't just buy, then you would actually have a sense of pride and accomplishment. It's like unlocking like Halo multiplayer armor. The only way to get it was through like certain achievements. And it's like, yeah, that is actually an accomplishment.
Yep.
It would change it if someone could just pay $2 and do the thing you spent hours doing, because now people don't know if you paid the $2 or if you worked, 1,000 hours for it.
Well, actually, people are just going to assume that you paid the money.
Yeah,
because you would be fucking insane to work that long for something that you could buy for $2. Like from my perspective, the amount of money I'm going to make if I work for that amount of time is so much more than the DLC. I'm never going to put that time into it, and that is why. You know what? Rift had downloadable content dungeon drops from their microtransaction store. Eventually, that's what killed the game. It got to the point where you could buy the rare upgrade materials that only dropped in the current tier dungeon from the store before the dungeon dropped.
Is that DLC though, or is that just shitty microtransactions?
It's microtransaction DLC.
But it's not actually downloading anything. It's just giving you something in your account in exchange for money. It's not new content. It's not adding anything. It's not changing anything. It's just paying money to bypass part of the game.
That's true. I guess it's not
XP
adding
boost.
anything, because it is.
Yeah, it's
Though that's
DLC is
really egregious.
that weird middle
Assassin's
ground.
Creed XP boost in a single player game. Who sells XP boosts in a single player game? You know who does that?
Everyone now.
You know who does that?
Everyone.
People that know their game is long, boring, and grindy. That's who puts that in. If I see that you can buy,
designed their game to be long, boring, and grindy.
if I see XP boosts in a single player game, I'm not going within 10 feet of that game. I'm just not. You're not going to get me to do it.
It's like it can even start innocent enough, if it wasn't, it wouldn't take long before, it became it, because once you have it there, it's going to become the expectation of, well, we want to encourage people to buy the things that are there, right? It's just simple marketing. So it's just, we got to make it harder so that people want to buy the thing that we provided them to be able to buy. And it's just, that option should just not be there.
They didn't make it harder.
No.
Not how they did it. What they did is they level locked the main story quests so that you had to do the grindy side content in order to get to the next main story quest.
Yeah, but by harder, I just meant it just takes longer. Like it's more effort, not, difficulty wise. It's just, if you wanted to be able to do it without putting in a lot more effort that isn't, even fun, then you just need to make you pay.
Yeah, we're not Ubisoft fans. They're definitely on the shit list. Definitely. I may end up working for one of the shit list developers. That's funny.
It's typically how it goes, unfortunately.
Yeah.
They are the largest. Their systems do work.
Yeah, it's even a pay cut, but it's a more interesting job. Something I'm looking at right now. EA is talking to me in a QA role. Could be fun. That could be fun. Sure beats support. I can see through your head, Rage.
I know, I'm trying to fix it. My lighting changed somehow.
Yeah, you need my lighting, huh? Especially, how do you like it with the new auto white balancing from the camera? I think it helps a lot.
I finally tweaked my lighting a bit better, so now I can swap between darker and brighter windows on my monitor and not have myself disappear
as much. It still gets the whoa effect on your face, but it's all good. Well, it's all good.
If I go to a bright window, there's not much I can do. It's like a 32-inch IPS panel. It's just gonna blast so much white light at me.
Rage slowly getting deleted. Oh no, we need Rage. Hey, you know what I've noticed? It's been over an hour. I've been talking the whole time. My throat doesn't hurt.
Yay!
It's definitely feeling a lot better. I'm looking forward to my specialist appointment so I can start actually streaming again. Why? Oh no! No, Rage, come back!
You got back.
Green screens are fun.
They are. I'm still not hearing much from Chad about what DLCs you guys like or don't like. Tell us what's good so that we can tell you why it's not. Yeah, come on. Argue with us. Do it.
We could talk about games that we wish had more DLC.
Bloodborne.
Games that we wish
Bloodborne
had more increased content.
Bloodborne. Yeah, I already said what I want for increased content from Bloodborne. The only way they can go without ruining the game is to look at the past and how it all started. Red Dead Redemption Undead Nightmare was cool.
It really was. I liked it a lot. But I really like zombie stuff in general, and I can understand why a lot of people are like, if you're not a fan of zombie games and all of a sudden the DLC is a zombie game, you're like, well, what the hell? I don't really want to do that. But it was really cool what they did. They basically just, made an entirely different game, but, kept the same characters, but completely different play style. The weird thing that I didn't know when I first started playing it is that you could kill anyone, to the point where you can kill your quest givers and, soft lock yourself out of the game.
I love this.
Which was funny. And it was just because sometimes you get bored in some games, you're just shooting wild, and I shot the NPC and I was like, oh, they actually die now. It's like, oh, you can just do that, or they can turn into zombies and stuff. And I was like, oh, cool. I shouldn't have saved because I've soft locked myself, but at the same time, it's kind of a neat mechanic that's there that, they just have that gritty feel of, anyone can die.
Yeah, I don't like the soft lock aspect of it, but I do love that anyone can just die. That's wonderful. I do love stuff like that. That's Dark Souls. Don't accidentally hit your NPCs in Dark Souls. It won't soft lock you, but the NPC will get upset.
I have to double check if it was maybe even not a full soft lock. It might have just been the quests I was on that you just couldn't do, or the story, the missions I was on. I'm not sure if it completely locks out main content or side content. But all I remember is that there was something I was doing for this person, then I accidentally killed them, and then I'm like, oh, I can't do this mission anymore. I'm like, oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I guess I have to reload. But it was neat. really weird just to have it all be zombies, and they put a lot of effort into it too. It wasn't just like a gimmick. It was like a very solid title.
Yeah, it sounds like they've redone the mechanics of the game for it, which I think is good and bad. Maybe warn the player if the previous game wasn't like that and the DLC is. Like, there's no warning about it in Bloodborne and Dark Souls and stuff like that, but if you've played one of them, then you're aware of this mechanic. You know what's up. You know that when you go to play it, if you hit someone, this is going to be the result. If you're used to just shooting willy-nilly blindly and not having to worry about it, and then all of a sudden when you do that, it ruins part of the game, maybe a little bit better player conditioning.
Yeah.
Maybe we should talk about that sometime. Player conditioning. Yeah. That's something a lot of people don't think of in a game.
Player conditioning and experience is important.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. I really hope they would do something like Undead Nightmare for Red Dead 2, which would be super awesome. But I think most of their effort is probably just going to online content now. I don't think they're too concerned with single player DLCs. I don't think they released a single player DLC for GTA 5, and GTA 4 had a few. And I remember The Lost and the Damned was actually quite fun because you were just playing as bikers, and it was just a different story, a different whole kind of atmosphere to it, same engine and stuff, and it's just additional great content. I'm hoping that stuff's not just dead now, at least for those titles. But it was neat. State of Decay actually had some decent DLC. I haven't played the second one too much, but the original, they had a DLC that I think added it wasn't like a roguelike, but they added basically like a kind of like a progression system where you would start off your base and it was small and you'd build it up, and then as soon as you're kind of good and you're at a strong point, you can then leave the area, which would basically you take your stuff and move to the next map. It's just the same map, but it kind of just refreshes everything from the start, but now everything gets stronger, and you just kind of keep doing that and keep increasing it and like difficulty wise and scaling things up, which I thought was neat. It was only like a $5 DLC or something like that, $5 or $10. Some other ones that let you just kind of be more sandboxy, choose your characters, kind of have a bit of an endless mode, because I think the default game didn't have an endless mode. They had no way to, like, once you cleared out everything, that was kind of it. You kind of wasn't too much content to go back to. They found ways to at least reset things so you can keep things interesting.
Yeah.
Wonder how this Cyberpunk DLC is going to be. I wonder what they're going to do.
Yeah, that's probably accurate. You can flat out buy this stuff in GTA 5 unless you mean casino. Yeah, casino. The online casino they have.
The casino is what he's talking about. It is literally an online casino where you can gamble virtual currency that you buy with real money.
Yeah. So they're happy to give away free stuff and extra free content and anything to keep people in the game, because as long as people are in the game, they're gambling, and GTA Rockstar is making money, right? So free content to keep people in the game is actually highly profitable when you look at the game.
Yeah.
You never use real life money in there, and you stay in there for hours when you play. And that's great that you can do that, but that's not what most people do.
Yeah, it was definitely a really weird system. I still like GTA 5 Online is actually pretty fun, especially if you have a group of friends you want to do like the heist and stuff with. And there's a fair bit of content. You don't really need to spend money on it, especially since for PC, chances are if you played online, a hacker would just drop a shit ton of money and then you just don't have to worry about it. But it was just like the single player DLCs were something that they actually did very well. Something that Rockstar, could actually pull off very well. And I think just it's not as lucrative of course, just providing that online system of, people will just buy this stuff all the time anyways. And it's like, kind of miss that, because, the single player for those games is actually pretty decent. Like Red Dead Stories is really well done, and like they do have some decent, like they have really nice characters and they're nice character arcs, and it's nice to, even if it was a smaller subset, if they want to do some like prologues or epilogues or anything like that, it would be nice to have more of that. But I think we've gonna kind of have to accept that, once those games are out, that's it. It's all just about the online.
Yeah. And that's probably a lot of the MMO influence as well, is where they got those ideas from.
Yeah, they just turned it into an MMO.
Yep.
They turned that single player game literally into an MMO that has expanded from like the PS3 now going to get released on the PS5.
Is released on the PS5, isn't it?
Not an official PS5 version.
Okay.
Yeah, most of those aren't coming out until later this year. There's like a surprisingly low number of PS5 games right now.
Yeah, well, there's a surprisingly low number of PS5s out there, so.
Aren't they still selling pretty good? I think they shipped like 4.5 million.
Yeah, there's still less than PS4 sold in the opening.
Fun fact. The allocation that AMD bought at TSMC in order to build their chips, less than 15% of it has been used up on PC parts. All of the rest of it has been consoles.
Not surprised at all. Not
and
surprised.
There still aren't enough.
Well, I mean, it's all Xboxes and all PlayStations are all AMD. So that's a lot of chips, especially when you look at the number of Xbox Series S's that are out there and have been shipped and are available. Those are fantastically everywhere, basically. If you want one, you don't have to try too hard, too long to get one.
Yeah, the strategy that Microsoft has taken for the distribution of the new consoles, I think, is fantastic.
Yeah, I definitely
Game
can't
Pass.
say anything good about PlayStation's distribution. But I still got one, so I'm happy.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is an economy of scale, right? Like Microsoft is orders of magnitude larger than Sony, so they have more money to throw at the problem.
Yeah. PlayStation's still the better console.
Oh yeah. Well, I think like spec wise, I think the Xbox Series X is pretty great, but I think it's one of those things where if you have a gaming PC, you don't really need an Xbox.
Yeah,
Xbox is at that point you're better off just getting the PlayStation for the exclusives, since I think there aren't any more Xbox exclusives that won't be on PC.
Everything's on PC now, and I have a high-end PC, so there's absolutely no reason to buy an Xbox. You know what they need to do to make Xboxes sell like hotcakes to even all the IT guys that have a nice computer? Make them easy to mod. We'll buy them like hotcakes. Hey, guess what? You can turn it into an FTP server. Sold!
You can put Linux on it. Sold!
That's why the PlayStation 2s and 3s sold so fast. They ran Linux. Everyone's like, oh, Linux? Buy! And then they're like, yeah, we're not going to let you touch the Linux, though.
Well, the PS3 could actually run custom distros.
Mm-hmm. But then they shut that down.
And then they took that out.
So that's what I was talking about. Why we're not going to let you do that anymore. Now that you've bought it, no more. Thanks for the money, though.
Yeah, it's weird because Xbox has moved away from they don't seem too concerned with selling the actual units of the consoles too much, because like I think they just know that like most of their focus now is that Game Pass, and the Xboxes have kind of just become a Game Pass machine, and they're like, well, you can get it on your phone, you can get it on this. So I think they're rolling out streaming as well. You don't need an Xbox anymore to stream some games to like your mobile devices. Yeah, it's weird. Like I haven't even like marketing wise, I'm not sure if it's just I get targeted harder for PS5, but I haven't seen a whole lot for Xbox. Like they're there, but they're not pushing as much as they typically do. I just see a shit ton of Game Pass. They're trying to bundle it with Game Pass this, Game Pass that, bundle this.
Game Pass is their baby. Xbox is nothing but a Game Pass box.
Yeah, Game Pass is actually a legitimately good deal too.
I have it.
It is.
For my PC, I got it. It's totally worth it. For the price I pay, totally worth it.
Yeah, it's wild because it makes them like I think their revenue is in like the tens of millions per month now from that. So it's like it makes sense. I'm not sure how I feel about it for how it goes for the industry, because they haven't really released how developers get paid for this. If it's going to be who's paying for what, or all that kind of fun stuff, or like is it really worth going through the effort to make the full $60 title if it's going to be on Game Pass, and maybe I'm not sure how the profit's going to work on that, if we're going to start seeing maybe a bit more microtransaction heavy stuff, because that's how Game Pass games will make money is, okay, well, you can get our game, won't cost much, but now the way we'll recoup our costs is, you download it for free, but now to play it, we're going to have all these, paywalls that you have to get through. So
they're already,
so far right now, it's good.
They're already basically doing that in the sense that any version of the game you play on Game Pass is the basic version. You don't get any of the extra bits and pieces and, pre-order stuff and all that's gone. It's just the cheapest version of the game you could possibly imagine is what you get to play. And that's fine. Honestly, I can't tell you how many times I'm fucking bored, I don't know what to do, and I just load it up and like, hey, there's a game I haven't played before. Install and check it out.
Yeah, it's because even like PS Now on PlayStation is pretty good now since it's not streaming anymore. You can actually download it, and there's a lot of good titles in there. It's just like right now it's good. It's just one of those things of like everyone's adopted it now. Like Ubisoft has it, EA has it. Like I said, PlayStation, of course, has it as well. And it's like, yeah, we're kind of good right now, but how no one's really saying, if the devs are actually going to be making any solid money or publishers are actually going to be making any solid money from this, or how do they determine who gets what? Because, it's a lot of revenue, and I doubt they'll be paying everyone equally to have the game on there. I'm sure they'll work out certain deals, but it's one of those things where like I could see over time in a couple of months, all of a sudden, we start seeing things that we're not too stoked on, depending on how things get released, or maybe we'll start seeing, even Game Pass exclusive stuff, which would be a bit weird.
That would be.
I don't know.
Although I could absolutely see that, but it's like I said, it's going to be really hard to figure out how to pay who. It'll probably be more of a how popular is your game on the system. The more people playing it, the more you'll make out of it.
Yeah, and then
depends how negotiations go too, because like I can easily see it being paid per minute played for some small amount of money.
Yeah, because it can get interesting then for like those niche titles that certain people just kind of like to play, and if they're if they sold, they would sell well, but now if they're on this kind of system and they don't have the same, even if they have like a similar numbers, but maybe not as long, like if their sales are going to hurt real hard, and everyone's going to be kind of encouraged just to capitalize on the flavor of the month as much as possible, and then we're just going to see like 20 to 30 of the same game being constantly released.
Was Medium on Game Pass?
I don't know.
Yep.
Let's find out.
Yes, it was. Is.
Yeah, Microsoft's been buying so many studios because they are pumping that up. So like I'm one of those things where I'm just unfortunately a pretty pessimist about a lot of this stuff. It's like always great. I'm like, oh, it's a good deal and everything, but I'm also like, what's this catch going to be? Like,
yeah, what's the drawback here? Nothing is all positive. Where's the negative? Medium is very Silent Hilly, you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll make sure to avoid it then.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I was watching the Digital Foundry tech video on it because it's a single player split screen game, which is wild.
I like to see those.
The stuff they had often. And what they have, like if you did have ray tracing enabled, so now you're doing single player split screen with ray tracing, which just sounds like an absolute nightmare to develop it. But
or to calculate it. That's a lot of calculations for one poor little box. So back to the DLC side. What are the newest DLCs we could think of?
The Doom DLC is fairly recent.
Ooh,
Jesus,
that was a good one.
Still haven't played all the way through that.
I've only seen the first room of it, and it goes under good.
Yes, that is true facts. But the Doom DLC, I was initially like hyping myself up. I'm gonna play it on Nightmare. Yeah, I'm gonna beat the base game on Nightmare, and then I'm gonna go play the DLC on Nightmare, and I'm gonna kick ass. And then I still haven't finished the base game on Nightmare because it's really hard.
Yeah, I started trying to play the base game on Nightmare. Man, that first Arachno kicks my ass. That's not very far into the game. Not at all. Yeah, turns out I'm not very good. I'm not very good at first-person shooters, and I'm okay with admitting this. And I think I'm just going to do the DLC on the difficulty below Nightmare.
Oh yeah, Ultraviolence I think is like where the game is tuned for. Ultraviolence is an excellent difficulty.
Yeah, I loved Ultraviolence. It's just too hard for me. Straight up too hard for me on Nightmare. I can't do it. I don't have the aim.
Okay. I still appreciate that, we have like they can go through tune difficulties that are that level, right? And it's still nice that they have the other stuff too. Like it's great when it's like even if you drop it, they don't just artificially kind of drop everything. It still feels like a tight tight system.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
you don't feel like there's a lot of games out there where you'll drop a difficulty and you're like, fuck, this is too easy now, right? You're like, okay, now, you know, and I don't want to force myself to play it on harder because, you know, I kind of want to have fun. And sure, it's a bit frustrating. And like, there's certain point that you hit a certain point when, you know, it either just requires too much focus where it's just, you know, sure you can do it, but at this point it's like you're sweating and it's a bit of like a workout. Or like, okay, well, I'm not really, you know, playing a game right here. I'm trying a bit too hard, which is fair for some things. And, but it's really, and there's also a point where like sometimes you just physically can't do certain things, especially with shooters. You know, sometimes you just physically can't aim fast enough, or it'll just take too long to build those things. And it's nice that you can drop a difficulty and not have the game just immediately start babying you, and you're just like, well, either it's too easy or it's too hard, and you need that nice, you know, warm porridge in the middle.
Yeah, and that's where
Honestly,
we're getting like 5 or 6 difficulties in games in order to account for those types of things. But
yeah, we're off topic, but a really cool thing I'm seeing in a lot of games now is they just expose difficulty tuners. Which is kind of nice.
Big fan of that.
It takes a lot of trust in the player, but I think we've kind of hit a point now where, you know, a lot of players are like, they understand if they put everything on easy, it's not fun, so they can actually, you know, tweak things, which is really nice because, you know, it's certain mechanics that you're not maybe good at, and there's games that, you know, will have a difficulty slider for stealthing, but everything else for auto aiming you can just turn off. So if you put it on medium, you know, the game's not aiming for you, so you can still do that. But if you're just not great at, you know, situational awareness and you keep getting stealth triggered, you can crank that down so that it's a bit easier and you can still have fun with that mechanic.
yeah, this is something we've talked about a few different times in the past. And yeah, all about the individual difficulty scaling. We saw it, the first games to really start doing that and make it popular and bring it into the forefront were the sandbox games. Pseudo and I both like those types where they was just like, you play it however you want. We're like, here's a million different settings. Make it as hard as or as easy as you want. Do whatever you like with it. Factorio was a good example of that. You can tune everything about your Factorio game before you launch it. You can have it so there's no enemies in the game at all. Take the bugs right out. You can change all your resources, how far apart they are, how dense they are, how big they are, how often they occur. Stuff like that is all tunable. And then the bugs are right from nothing to they evolve and move fast and attack you from the beginning. And you can do any in between of all of these settings however you want to make your own world.
Does Factorio have DLC?
Nope.
Because I think that'd probably be a good one. I know RimWorld recently got some DLC.
Yes, and it was great. It was. RimWorld's DLC was fantastic. The royalty DLC with all the PsyOps stuff, they added all sorts of like base requirements. So as your people go up in rank of royalty, they have like their bedroom needs to meet certain requirements. They have to have their own throne room of certain sizes with certain stuff in it and certain values, certain beauty on things, all sorts of stuff like that. It gives you all sorts of actual things to do, I guess. in a game like that where it's all just things to do, it's more things to do. Oh, and they added a new type. They have missions now, so different factions will reach out to you and give you missions to accomplish, like going and assaulting a base and destroying stuff in it, or aiding people that are running and need help. They're going to hide out in your base, and then the people attacking them are going to come attack your base, and they'll help you defend your base and pay you for helping them. And then there's another one where you have to build monuments. They'll give you like certain amounts of resources and stuff you need to do, and you have to build the monument and then protect the building for a certain amount of time. And if anything gets damaged in it, you lose rep instead of gain it. Lots of little things in it, and they were all just so good. Great. If you haven't played the RimWorld DLC, absolutely play that one. Absolutely. One word. Yeah. What else is new DLCs? DLC 2020, that's what I'm going to Google. Let's see what came out in 2020.
I was checking Steam and it's just so cluttered.
2020's 10 best DLC content released. Elder Scrolls Online, yeah. Total War Warhammer 2, didn't play it. Civilization, those are usually pretty good.
Generally. People who are into Total War and Warhammer are so happy with the Total War Warhammer games.
Yeah.
I think 3 just got announced too.
Yep.
It's pretty hype.
Yep. Borderlands 3.
Oh yeah, that was a 2020 game, wasn't it?
The
That had
DLCs
good
were
DLC.
too. Yeah, I enjoyed those DLCs. They were fun. They were. We already put Borderlands 2 up there as well. Borderlands 2 had some great DLCs. But yeah, they're
Borderlands 1 had good ones as well. Just take the number off. Just Borderlands the series.
There you go. Yeah, Borderlands 2 DLCs built the enemy characters well. They added flavor, they added context, they added story, just lots of things to do, great multiplayer experiences. All solid. Speaking of multiplayer experiences, slightly off topic again, when are we going to finally do the Monster Hunter Worlds with your buddy? I want to play some now.
I keep texting him and being like, "Hey, come play Monhan with us," and he keeps being like, "Oh, I'm busy."
Did Monster Hunter have any DLC?
Yep, we put it up there.
It had Iceborne.
Right.
It was quite good.
Okay.
It wasn't even a DLC as much as it was expansion level content. It was like a whole new area, whole new game, whole new mission.
I was at PAX in 2019, and they had the Iceborne booth for it, and it was this massive thing.
Yep.
Oh, that looks really cool. Huge line for that.
Apparently Sword and Shield had a DLC.
That doesn't surprise me.
I don't know what it was, but the Crown Tundra. Outer Worlds DLC, I didn't play that. Did it come out?
I believe it's out.
Peril and Gorgon?
I haven't played it either.
I'm definitely interested in it. Ghost of Tsushima Legends? I wouldn't call that good. It was a tacked-on, class-based, multiplayer dungeon experience. They almost went like MMO on it, where there's a healer and a stealther and a tank and... Strange.
Neat idea. Bad game to do it to.
Yeah, great game though. As a game as a whole, great game. But if they actually want you to pay for that extra content, not worth it. Dead or Alive 5 and 6's DLC are definitely bad. It's over thousands of dollars in bikini skins. Yes, we can put the Dead or Alive series in there. She has great tracts of land. Yes. Everybody loves the Monty Python reference, Rage.
I love Python. I love Python so much. I'm looking at my Steam library trying to find games that I actually bought DLC for, and it turns out like the large majority of games that I buy just don't have DLC.
Yep. Control apparently had a DLC. Didn't play it. The Foundation. Did you play that one, Val? I know you played Control recently. And hey, Val, welcome. How's your weekend? How you been? Mortal Kombat 11 new characters. Apparently John Rambo was a DLC for Mortal Kombat 11.
Okay, weird reference, but all right.
Remnant from the Ashes had a DLC.
I meant to play the DLC because I played and beat the main game, which was okay, but I figured I'd give the DLC a shot too, but I never got around to it.
I'm kind of interested in the main game, but I think I'm more interested in it because I know it can be multiplayer, so playing it single player isn't super thrilling, exciting to me.
Yeah, it's not a good single player game. It's definitely one of those, play with two good buddies kind of thing. It's still a decently solid experience, but it's got a lot of weird quirks. It's one of those kind of titles.
Maybe when I get Pookie's new computer set up, which is my old computer, and we start playing computer games together, we'll pick it up and play it together.
You know why we didn't have Witcher 3's DLC in the good is because we completely forgot that game existed.
Yeah, that's true because none of us played it, I don't think.
I played a bit of it.
Yeah, I played a bit of it.
The DLC is actually really good for Witcher 3.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about it.
But people were stoked for, Cyberpunk's going to have free DLC, it'll be good. And it's like, well, got to hope the base game's good first, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. A year is a long time.
The base game was pretty good for its unfinished state. The writing was great, and it was playable mostly.
On PC specifically.
Yeah, on PC. Don't play it on PS4.
So we can play it now. You guys can play it now. You got your graphics cards. But yeah, for a lot of people that was rough.
Yeah, not a good launch. Not a good launch. Almost all of the DLC in Witcher 3 is free, and it all adds a lot to the game. The only DLC you paid for was 2 expansions that were a ton of content. And that's how DLCs should be done. As we look through the thing, all the DLCs that are good expand on characters, expand on story, expand on the world, and give you new content to play. Typically for half the price of the game. Like Bloodborne's DLC, since it's at the top and we keep talking about it. All of that for $30. Yeah. 5 bosses, $30. Like 7 weapons.
The VFX on Ludwig alone was worth that barrier of entry.
Yeah. The soundtrack from the DLC is worth that money. Let alone the DLC itself. Yeah, I've read all that. Yeah. And there's not a lot. What's coming out in 2021 then? Is there anything we're actually looking forward to?
I think I can't remember if the Spider-Man Miles Morales. I don't think that was DLC. I think that was just a standalone.
I said looking forward to.
Oh, I'm stoked for Sons of Forest.
That's not a DLC though, right? That's a full-on
it's
game.
a sequel.
Yeah.
It's a sequel, but I am so stoked.
Yeah, we're excited for the game.
I have one. It's the new Subnautica expansion.
Is that an expansion? I thought it was a standalone game.
It's a standalone expansion, is my understanding, because it does continue on from...
it's the same planet.
Below Zero continues on from the story of Subnautica.
No, it's a standalone game. You do not need Subnautica to get Below Zero.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I misunderstood then.
There it is. Buy Subnautica Below Zero. It's in a bundle, the Deep Ocean bundle. But
buy this bundle and save 0% off 2 items.
And yet it's still worth it. Although you'll notice that I don't own it.
It's really good.
It's not actually in my cart or anything because it's still early access, and we don't buy early access games very often. See? I'm holding true, although I've been like drooling and watching the game like, come out, release.
Yeah, that was me with Risk of Rain 2.
I'm glad I wasn't that way with Risk of Rain 2, because when it did come out and you were like, hey, play this, I was like, oh my god, I like this game. It's not a game I typically like. If I were to look, like if I was browsing through Steam and I saw Risk of Rain 2, I'd click ignore.
Oh yeah, I totally expect that, but as somebody who had seen little bits and pieces and enjoyed the first one, it's a game I highly recommend to most people.
Buy it, Rubido. We play multiplayer fairly often. I can hook you up with the mod manager. We've now got it up to 16 players with a drop-in, drop-out system, so people can leave and join as they please, and it just hooks them up with a bunch of items to kind of catch you up. They're random items, so it gets silly, but it hooks you up with a bunch of items, so at least you're somewhere. Yeah, we had 6 people in one game. 6
people.
Yeah, let's try to get it up to 16.
To be able to do that. It's ridiculous.
Oh yeah, it gets stupid. It gets so stupid. The way that game was there any specific? Because we barely touched on it because we don't play a lot of fighting games, but we knew.
I played a shitload of Street Fighter 4 and 5.
Okay.
That is the one disclaimer.
All right. Well, then, Rage, what was up with the DLCs in it? Did you look? Why were they so criminal?
Almost every character on release as DLC was incredibly overpowered. They would take months to patch them there's no proof of this, but they were probably encouraging you to buy the new DLC characters.
99%, just by what you said.
The they would, hype up their events with like, here's some new DLC that's a slight recolor of one of the stages in celebration of our new tournament that we're doing. New costumes. It was just bad. There was little to no value in any of the DLCs. And that's, ignoring the whole fact that the only reason the game was balanced initially is because they designed the game and then built it so poorly that there was an additional 30 to 40 milliseconds of input delay on literally everything you did. And then once they fixed that, the characters that were overpowered were now completely useless.
Tiny roster, missing game modes, quality of life functions that 4 had. The way they package costumes is designed to squeeze as much money as possible out of you, etc. Yeah, that sounds like they're trying to follow in a very poor way the League of Legends model.
I guess you could say that. But
League of Legends did it well. Ish.
Yeah, it's true. Little sidetrack about Street Fighter V, because I love Street Fighter 4 and I love the design decisions for Street Fighter 5. I just hated the implementation. Street Fighter 5 had a lot of really good design decisions going into it and a lot of really cool, sort of making characters come into their own aspects to them, and then they just botched the delivery in almost every way possible.
Yeah, that sucks. This is why we often talk about implementation being so much more important than ideas. Your ideas ain't worth squat if you can't implement them. Which sucks, because our ideas are so good. Worthless great ideas. Worthless great ideas.
We got to go back and make some of the games that we've designed.
Nah, let's just keep designing them. That's way more fun.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, while I wait to hear if anybody else has anything to talk about DLC, let's just talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing in the next few. So we got some games to review still. I've got to get back to playing games so that we don't... Yeah, so we don't run out of games to review. So next week is game reviews, as it usually is. Have I gone too far?
Probably.
No,
the reviews that are first on the list are Blasphemous
and AC7.
Yeah.
That's next week.
Really, really interesting games.
Yeah. Then we will be doing approaches to world building. So we'll be talking all about different ways to do world building in games. That's 2 weeks away. Make sure you're here for that one, because that'll be fun. We're definitely going to have to do a bit of homework and research ourselves, because there's so much to talk about on that one. You got to organize those thoughts just a little bit before you start spitting them out. And then BioShock Infinite and Katana Zero at the end of the month. But I'm shocked you guys don't have Dark Souls 2 DLC on there. Those were some of the best parts of 2. Yeah, so we don't have them on there because they actually broke the rules of Dark Souls and ruined the game. Despite there being some good bosses in there, the NPCs in there were offensive and criminal. That's why I didn't put it in there. The NPCs can animation cancel their attacks, Rubida. It doesn't deserve to be in there.
Yeah, I love Dark Souls 2. Controversial opinion, I love it. I think it's a great game. The DLCs broke all of the rules that make... Oh, you're disagreeing with Val. Yeah. The DLCs broke all the rules that make Dark Souls so good. Like it broke the fact that the enemies can only do what you can do. It broke the fact that there are often, planned pass through things, but you don't necessarily need to take them. it broke the fact that there are, set paths for runbacks. Your runbacks are usually fairly reasonable. And then Horsefuck Valley happened. I mean, whatever that place with the two cats is.
I mean, I wasn't a big fan of like the Alon run either. That one was a bitch.
Yeah, Alon's run was really bad.
I loved the Alon fight, but I got so tired of doing the run back when I was learning them that I just left. I didn't kill Alon. I didn't do it. I just didn't care.
Plus, everything in the DLC had like infinite poise.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that. Lurking here doing enemy lists, flavor text, etc. That's exciting. Listening to you guys as podcast like usual. Love it, Incaria. Good work. Keep the work up. I've been looking at all your updates on your game, liking what I see. For a first attempt, it's a damn good project. Once you're done it, maybe we'll try to highlight it on here. Actually, that's something I've been wanting to do since we've got a few different people making games. Gong has a new update coming to his game, and maybe we'll pull it up as a panel and play it with the three of us just commenting on it.
Sure.
One of the panels. That's definitely something I'd be into doing. The other thing I wanted to talk about doing in the future is I'm still super into actually putting our Cyberpunk board game into TTS.
Yeah, we need to do that.
That would be a lot of fun to actually do a panel playing the game, because I really want to show people what goes into actually balancing and testing a game.
Yeah, especially like the first design document versus actual implementation changes quite a bit.
Yeah.
Ideas on paper versus ideas implemented. It's all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, it turns out most of this isn't going to work, but then you can tweak it because you kind of have the idea of what you wanted, and it extends to most things. I'm taking a course right now that is very heavily focused on planning before actually writing code, which is fine, but when you overdo it, you find that when you go to actually implement it, it's like, oh yeah, it turns out none of this is going to work, and I just wasted like days when I could have just did the prototype method.
There's definitely pros and cons to both of them. Absolutely.
Yeah, you need a middle ground. I think the prototyping is a very important part of most development cycles and design cycles too.
Yep. So
as a small note before we move on, I'm going to start posting the next review stream and the next panel topic in the announcements channel. So anybody who's following along with our reviews, with our topics, can pop in there, check out what we're going to be doing next, and then spend a little time thinking about it, spend a little time maybe playing the games that we're going to be talking about.
Thank you for that, Rage. I've been trying to remember to do stuff like that, but there's just so many things for me to remember to do for the stream. You doing that one was going to be helping me so much. There's so much work that goes into this. Man, when I first started streaming, I was like, yeah, I'm just going to go online and play some games, and it's going to be great, and now it's a full-time job. I love
you guys.
It's a fun job, though. Oh, it's my favorite job. Absolutely. I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't. I mean, I'm sitting here literally like sick going, I got to stream more. Why can't I stream more? So that tells you how much of a job it is, really. But, man, it's a lot more work than I expected. And I had to basically take an OBS master's class to get everything set up real proper. However, man, it looks good now. I mean, the background sucks. It's just this boring gray. It definitely needs like a designer's touch, but the engineering side is there, man. Yeah, engineering. I'm not a designer. I'm not an art guy at all. It's
maybe next time you get a Twitch check. Next time you get a Twitch check, put a little bit that back into the art.
I've been talking to some artists. They're too flaky. Artists are so flaky. I sent messages to a bunch of them with like what I wanted and got like ridiculous answers back and stuff. I'm like, yeah, I don't want to hire you, If anybody knows a great artist for, like cute, like our emote style, cute kind of stuff that can also do animations, I'm super interested in talking to them. And I'm happy to give them a whole bunch of money to make my stream look the way I want it to look. Definitely if you know any artists that want to make money and can do animations, digital animations, send them my way. Send them my way. I've got tons of great ideas. Tons of great ideas.
Pay your artists.
Yes. Yes. I'm going to pay them very well as long as they're doing good work. I really am. Like, a lot of the people that I've been messaging, I'm like, yeah, you're asking, like a couple $100. I'm talking thousands if you can do it right, but you can't. So come on, don't you want to see?
Find the right people.
Don't you want to see all of our mascots just running in? No, you don't. God damn it. That's all of them. All 4 of them. Imagine them all at a table, having a good time. Yeah, it's going to be cute. It's going to be wonderful. It needs to be done. What have you done, Pseudo? Oh, I see. You've added this pink-blue border around you.
Accidentally clicked on a different scene.
Oh, okay. I just saw this pink line appear at the bottom of your cam. I was like, what's going on? Do you make me worry when that stuff like that happens? Because I'm like, what did I push?
Did I break something?
What have I touched? Why did it change? Oh, yeah, I'm not the only one with control. You're laughing because you know exactly what I'm talking about, Rubido. You've done it before. I know you have. I've seen you do it. Yup. Everyone's what? Everyone's a critic. Metal Gear Solid artists do backgrounds for you. Oh. Yeah, no. I mean, I could do that. Hold on. I'm going to be a Metal Gear Solid artist here.
The topic.
There you go. I'm a Metal Gear 3 artist. Metal Gear Solid 3. That's how you do it.
I get that joke, but the topic of loot boxes is more something that we covered during our talk on microtransactions rather than DLC, because it's not adding additional content. It's a paywall for stuff that's already in the game.
Well, that's a little too bright. That's fine. It's fine. Snake! Yeah, I didn't even play that one. I just know the scene. Wasn't my game. Just wasn't.
I'm trying to remember the last time I bought DLC for a console game. Actually, Horizon. Forgot. Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yep.
That was good DLC.
Yep.
That's real good DLC.
Horizon Zero Dawn would be the last one I bought as well. And yeah, it was great. It was absolutely great. It's a little better. I don't remember what color I had it at now.
A little bit darker.
Yeah, just a touch off, so it's not quite like blindingly offensive. But I do like the white-black aesthetic. It's a little more professional looking. But we want to make this a little more fun. I need some animations in the text and fun stuff like that. If I get Neo 2 before Dark Souls, am I bending the rules? No. They're nothing alike.
There are no rules.
Totally different game.
Yeah, there are no rules and they're nothing alike. I wouldn't even compare them. If you approach Neo 2 the way you approach Dark Souls, you're going to have a bad time. If you approach Dark Souls the way you approach Neo 2, you're going to have a bad time. No, a lot of people try to compare them in Caria, but a lot of people are wrong. That's the bottom line. I really want a Metal Gear Rising remake/remaster.
Yeah, it's too bad that'll never happen. I've been right up until the Konami Kojima debacle, I had my fingers crossed. I was praying for a Metal Gear Rising sequel.
I've been saying this all the time lately, and I really hope people start listening. Stop remaking good games. You're just ruining them. Remake games that could have been good, but weren't. Like they talked about remake when as soon as they announced Final Fantasy VII remakes, I was like, oh great, they're gonna ruin the classic.
And they did.
But what if they had said, hey guys, we're gonna remake Xenogears with enough budget to finish
Final
the game?
Fantasy 2.
Yeah.
Or 9.
Yeah. Or 8.
8 was okay.
8 was great, but it had its own issues. If it was cleaned up a little bit, it would be great. The random streamer said Neo 2, the complete edition, is a good Dark Souls game, so I thought wrong. Yeah, it's not a Dark Souls game at all. It's not even a Souls-like game. It's just a difficult action RPG. It's a difficult action RPG. That is what I would call it.
If you want to see what Neo 2 is all about, just watch Val. Val loves Neo 2. I'm sure he'd be glad to do another Neo 2 stream. And he can tell you all about it.
Yeah, comparing Monster Hunter World to Dark Souls is a bad comparison as well. Dark Souls and Demon Souls are alike, yes. They're not the same story, they're not the same world, they're not the same characters, there's no overlap at all. Completely encapsulated separate entities. The only thing that Dark Souls is with is Dark Souls 2 and 3. Yeah, Demon Souls has no other game to it. The closest thing to a Demon Souls sequel is Bloodborne. We do know the shizzle. These random PogChamp emotes are getting terrible. I'm glad they didn't just do away with PogChamp, though.
Yeah. There was one a couple of days ago that I really like. I forget who it was, but it was a really good PogChamp, and I wish they would just bring it back.
We actually did an entire panel in Caria on what is Souls-like. So if you're really interested in like finding out what the Souls-like tag really encompasses and what makes a game really Souls-like, and the games that fall under it that you're interested in, watch that panel. It was a good one. And it's not all 3D games. There's a lot of great 2D Metroidvanias that are very Souls-like.
Yeah, I think a thing that surprises most people is when, we say that Sekiro isn't a Souls-like.
Yeah,
it's not. It's completely different.
People just see FromSoft and they automatically think Souls-like. But no, yeah. You play Sekiro the way you play Dark Souls and you're going to have a terrible experience. So frustrating.
Yeah, I think it's getting to the point now where people see like, if you have a parry and a bonfire, and it's like it's a lot more than that. Those are definitely elements that FromSoft use in a lot of their games, and now other people use, such as like, one of the newer Star Wars games from Respawn had that, and
Fallen Order.
They're cool mechanics, but it's definitely not that's not what makes it a Souls-like.
It's not a Souls-like. It's actually closer to Sekiro meets Prince of Persia.
Yeah.
Oh, great though. Good game.
Same with what about that was a good topic. There was quite a few games we went through. But yeah, there's that. If you go on Steam, that tag is applied pretty loosely now. Yeah,
it's way too loose. Just like what we were talking about before, how every shooter used to be called a Doom clone. Even though they were playing nothing like Doom. It'd be like calling Mass Effect a Doom clone.
Yeah, we never did end up coming up with a proper genre name for Souls-like.
No.
It's complicated.
It is complicated. Yeah, considered action RPG, I think is the closest we got to.
Or something to that effect.
Bloodborne is a Metroidvania.
Is it though? Like, kind of. It's got a little bit of backtracking, but
You got a whip.
it must be a Castlevania game.
Well, Castlevania wasn't Metroidvania though.
It was Castlevania.
Yeah, I mean, most of the Castlevania games, until you get to PlayStation era, Castlevania is not Metroidvania. Castlevania 2 got a little Metroidvania, but they threw it all away and didn't go back to Metroidvania until... I do. It's on my cheap list. I want to play it so bad. I can't tell you how many times I've almost gone, I'm going to play Symphony of the Night. No, I got to play it on stream. I'm doing the same thing with Demon Souls right now. Hey, let's play some stream it. Hey, let's play some... Oh, stream it.
Do you have your cheap bin on the points yet? No, you don't. You need to put that in there. I want to know how many talking points I need for bargain bin games.
Yeah, I'm going to be changing that up a bunch. That's why I haven't done it yet. So instead of just being by the hours, I think I'm going to shift the focus. There's still going to be a request any game option, but it's going to be one of the more expensive options to play like all the older games and stuff like that, and put more of a focus on the stuff that's coming out. Look at a lot of the newer games so we can talk about and review a lot of the new stuff as it comes out. Things like the messenger and Cyber Shadow and stuff like that are really good games, and I think will be really interesting to stay up to date with and talk about. Metroidvania implies you need certain items or skills for level navigation. There's only a couple places in Bloodborne where you need certain items to advance. Yeah, but you still need, certain items to get through certain places, and levels connect backwards upon each other, like when you go up the ladder out of the Forbidden Woods and end up back at Yosefka's clinic, and you're like, whoa, I'm back here! That's very Metroidvania. Aside of the gameplay, the enemies in Dark Souls, Neo, Sekiro, and Demon Souls, which would you say have the most interesting list of them? Bloodborne.
Most interesting list of enemies. Yeah, definitely Bloodborne. I would say probably followed up with Dark Souls 3.
Yeah. Then Sekiro. Sekiro has some interest. It's a lot of humanoid, but they just went really weird with a lot of the humanoid stuff. And then the non-humanoid stuff is kind of crazy. The problem with Sekiro's non-humanoid bosses is the game was really tuned to fight humanoids.
You're like really tuned to fight humanoids, and specifically locked on. If you don't lock on, you kind of break the whole combat engine.
Yeah, Neo's got some really interesting array of enemies too. But from what I saw in Neo, you fight a lot of the same stuff a lot. Like a lot.
I wonder if Sekiro will ever get a DLC.
Probably not.
As far as I know, there's no plans, but oh my god, I would love a Tomoe DLC for Sekiro. That would be amazing.
I would absolutely love Sekiro DLC as well, but unfortunately for Sekiro DLC to be a thing, FromSoft would need to work with Activision again, and I don't see that happening. I just don't.
Yeah, probably not going to be a thing.
I'm biased to Japanese mythology. Already got plans to have Kappa in your game, but yeah. Sekiro stays very, very, very accurate and true to classic Japanese mythology. And that's why the world isn't as interesting for some people, because it's not like discovering this new lore and myth and world. It's just exploring ancient Japanese mythology.
And also check out Neo's.
Yeah, Neo.
Also check out Neo's enemy design. They also took a little bit more liberal approach to designing their enemies, but most of it, as Val said, is based on Japanese folklore.
Yeah. Turns out Japan has a massive wealth of kami and oni to pull from for lore. I once researched them when I was making a card game that was all about the kami. I ended up scrapping it because they were so obscure in many cases that just most people that might appeal to it wouldn't understand the lore, and the amount of people that are really that deep into the Japanese stuff is few and far between. But it was fun. There's, I had hundreds of them and I had barely touched the surface. They literally have a spirit for everything, like an umbrella that was left outside too long. Any news on any of these games getting a follow-up? What do you mean follow-up?
Like a sequel to Sekiro or Neo?
No.
It would not surprise me if we got a third Neo.
Yeah, Neo will get a third one. Absolutely. Sekiro will never be done again. Dark Souls is done. Bloodborne's never going to have a follow-up.
Which is kind of sad.
It is sad, but Hidetaka does not like doing sequels. Dark Souls 2 and 3 weren't even supposed to be a thing. He just wanted to do Dark Souls. And then they were like, no, it's so successful, you need to make more. And I actually love the way he handled it. So no spoilers, but there is a choice you can. There are choices in Dark Souls. So there's actually more than one ending you can do. And Dark Souls 2 and 3 picks up after Dark Souls 1, depending on which path you chose. So Dark Souls 2 and 3 are different worlds entirely, cannot happen at the same time, and are depending on which ending you chose in Dark Souls for which one you should play for your follow-up. Which I thought was a super creative way to do it, and totally a Hidetaka thing to do. I'm waiting for you to just agree with me, but it feels like you didn't even need to say anything. You're just like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. You said a correct thing.
All right. Well, it's 6. Again, I didn't stream all week. I'm sorry. So I'm not going to do the giveaways again. I'm sorry. Yeah, I had a follow 2 days ago. Right on.
Weird.
Cool. YouTube works. I'm also hanging out in lots of channels. I've been hanging out in Popo. Shout out to Popo and Duck. My shout out command work? Yay! It does. I have to expand on it, but it actually works. So yeah, go check out some Popo and Duck. He's been doing Blind Dark Soul, or Blind Bloodborne. He's in the DLC right now.
Ooh.
He just downed Ludwig and cleared out the research hall, and he's working on Living Failures when he comes back live. Should be tonight, I'm hoping. So, you know what's right after that. We don't want to give too many spoilers, but it gets good there. Oh, it gets good there. So, absolutely check that one out. Absolutely. Hey, check out some Val, too. You like PS4? You want to see what the PS4 has to offer? Definitely check out Val. Everything he does is on PS4. That's how we started watching, because we have a PS4, and Pookie was like, hey, look, it's all these PS4 games I can check out. We've actually bought a few because of him, so thanks, Val. Also a nice chill place to hang out and listen to an old guy bitch about games.
Just cool. Just go hang out with Val.
Yep.
Do it.
Yep. So, until the next time I get to see you, which I'm hoping will be sooner than later, because I'm actually feeling really good. I'm surprised. I'm hoping my ear checkup on Monday goes fantastically. I'm cool when I'm not raging. Yeah, he's cool when he's not rage.
Oh.
Yeah, I will be back soon. I'm feeling better and better and better. I still can't stand up for too long without getting an earache and wanting to fall over, though. So there's also that going on still. Hopefully soon. Thanks for the good show. You're welcome for the good show. I'm glad you enjoyed. So until the next time we get to see a recovery, yay! I'm with you. I want to get better. I want to come back. As soon as I'm better, we're back with Blind Demon Souls. Back with Blind. Not black, but back.
That'll be good. It'll be a real good time.
Yeah, thanks for the info, always appreciate it. Man, thanks for the questions, always appreciated. There's nothing I like more than helping people learn about games. Legitimately. I love it when people come up to me with questions. The only thing better than somebody coming up to me with a question is somebody coming up to me with a question I didn't know the answer to.
Because then you get to learn a thing too. It's great.
Exactly. We love learning. You know, it's easy to learn something new every day. The trick is to learn something true every day. Try to go do that. Have yourself a fantastic Saturday. I'm Deus.
I'm Rage.
And I'm Pseudo.
And may all your shots be headshots. Hey, let's see if the new credits work. I bet you